My name's Yang. I'm the founder of KitchenMate. Who here is an entrepreneur or is thinking about starting a new company? Show of hands. That's awesome. So I'd like to share with you an insight that have completely changed how I think about starting new companies. And it started about 5 years ago. The company that I'd started had failed. My family was falling apart, and my daughter ends up moving to the States with her mother, and I was at rock bottom. My life was a mess. I didn't know what I was gonna do next, so I decided to move to my parents' place. There I saw my mom get sick. She lost a lot of weight. She developed a dietary condition that prevented her from almost eating everything. And seeing her go through that was the hardest thing ever. And all the skills I had, I couldn't use any of it to help her. A month later, I'm flying to Boston to see my daughter. Her stepdad and mom is kind enough to offer me a place to stay and offer me some food. For lunch, we had leftover pizza. And for dinner, we had deep fried chicken with French fries. And this was like normal for so many families because it's just not realistic to cook every meal from scratch. But then I started thinking about the consequences of eating like this. And I went back and felt helpless, and I couldn't do anything about it again. But the thing about being at rock bottom is the only way is to go up. And as long as you're willing to stand back up, life always have a way to reveal that North Star. So on the flight back from Boston, I started thinking about how I can help them. Although I knew very little about the food system or the culinary arts, I knew I just had to do something to make a difference. So with nothing holding me back, I decided to dedicate the rest of my life to solve the problems in our food system, to make healthy eating easy and affordable. I started thinking about how you can make a home-cooked meal at home-cooked meal prices, but without paying someone to cook it for you. So imagine there's this appliance that can turn raw ingredients into really delicious, awesome recipes automatically. But that appliance didn't exist, and it would be really hard to build. But the vision of that appliance sitting on my daughter's kitchen counter was so clear that I just had to make it a reality. So I took a leap of faith and got started. I learned how to do mechanical engineering, some circuitry, so I can turn my ideas to life. And after 4 months of hacking away at this, I built something that kind of worked. This prototype here was enough to convince a brilliant mechanical engineer, Anthony, to join me on this mission. And it was enough to convince a few angel investors to give us $50,000. This was our office, our first office. It was an apartment building. I really liked it there. This is our first meal cooked on New Year's Eve of 2016. It was delicious, and everything was cooked perfectly, except for that piece there in the middle. One day I was debugging the machine, and I realized something was terribly wrong. The machine we were building was really complicated, and it was not going to be easy to manufacture. So with 4 months of runway left, I proposed something to my team for us to basically kill everything that we build and start from scratch designing a simpler cooker. A few investors that had promised us money backed out. The government was supposed to give us shred credits, ends up doing an audit on us instead. You know, the crappiest moment about being a CEO is having to tell the people that believed in you that this is going to be your last paycheck for a while. But I'm not giving up. It's up to you if you want to stay. I remember going over to my parents' place one night, and my mom pulled me off to a side and asked me and looked me in the eye and said, "Son, you've been working so hard for so long without any success. Why don't you stop trying?" I just paused and thought about that night flying back from Boston and all the wonderful memories that came after. and said, Mom, I know you love me and want the best for me, but this time is different. I know it's a struggle, but I feel like this is what I was meant to do. And she smiled. Because you see, my whole life I've been chasing after great ideas, one after another. But that has only led me to failures. But this time I'm chasing after a problem I truly and deeply care about. And there's nothing that's going to stop me from solving it. The government did end up giving us money. We did end up making the new cookers. The team stayed together, and we got bigger. And we found amazing investors that also believed in our vision. We figured out our go-to-market by helping businesses help their employees eat better. Last week, we reached 10,000 meals sold. And next year, thank you. Next year, we're planning to reach 1 million. I'd like to end with this photo with my daughter. This is one of the proudest moments of my life, when she was eating a KitchenMate meal cooked all by herself and enjoying every bite of it. But this is one story, and it's my story. There's a story like this about food for everyone. Which brings me back to the insight about starting a new company. That a great company is not born from a great idea alone, but born from a common struggle that starts with you. Because it's so hard to build something new. If you're not deeply connected to the why, chances are you're probably not going to make it. So stop trying to chase after the hype and look inside and around you. I'm certain you're going to find a meaningful problem worth solving and have the will to persevere until the end. Thanks for listening.
Questions?
Hi. Thank you for sharing the failures that you went through before a successful story. I think that's something a lot of people don't hear often. My one question is, sometimes we all feel unmotivated and just, I don't know if it's lazy or if you see so much competitors outside. I know you mentioned that you believe in the story. Is there any other factors that help you kind of get back up and go back on the journey of your successful story?
So besides really, feeling this deep connection to the problem you're trying to solve, I think just having a team that constantly reminds you who you are and what you're trying to do, and people that also believe in the same mission. Sometimes it's really hard to do it alone. But if you find people that also believe in what you're doing, a lot of the time, through those hard times, you can get through it. So pick the people who you surround yourself very carefully, and be patient about that.
Thank you so much for that. That was pretty amazing. I wanted to ask you a two-part question. The first part is, who is your first customer that you sold to?
The first customer is actually myself.
First legitimate customer.
So my previous company that I worked at, the CEO is a good friend of mine, and I said, is this something that you guys could use at your company?
Right.
And he's like, yeah, let's do this. So I think early on when you're starting out, it really helps to find like really friendly people who can give you their candid advice. Because our first product was, it was risky. Like it can light on fire or other things.
Right.
It didn't do that,
Right.
but yeah, I think really finding people that can give you that constructive criticism early on is really important.
Okay, thank you. And that leads me into the next one, which was, so what's your sales cycle like then for selling such a product? Thanks.
Yeah, so our initial customer right now is small and medium-sized businesses of 40 to 200 people. And what we do is we actually it's almost like asking them for real estate in their company. Can we put our equipment in here so that you can help your employees eat better? And it's a really sort of, we're not asking them to pay for the equipment. We're not asking them to like commit anything really. So it's been pretty good, the strategy. We didn't come up with it right away, but it's certainly something that we learned as we iterated our sales process. Yeah.
One more question.
Hi, yes. My name is Edward Johnson. I'm currently learning data science at BrainStation. These are my colleagues here. I think it's a fantastic story that you gave. Great success. I'd like to know a little bit more about your going forward, if you're going to be thinking about putting more of your devices into homes and companies, or focusing more on the way that people actually eat, the ingredients and so on. If you could tell us a little bit more about your strategy.
Thanks for asking that. Yeah, one of the things I learned as we built a company is that sometimes you can't go from 0 to 100 in one shot. And to do the 0 to 1 was really hard. And we recognized that being a real business, we need to make the economics work, right? So while I truly want to put this on the kitchen counter of families like my daughter in Boston, I can't just do that from 0 to 100, essentially. The distribution networks around delivery to homes is very fragmented and it's really expensive. So while I see that is something that we want to do in the horizon, right now we're really focused on bringing this into workplaces and so on. About the ingredients, it's something that really, it's the starting point of the story, is the ingredients themselves. And I recognize that a lot of companies have a hard time using good ingredients because ingredients go bad, they're perishable, right? So most of the businesses out there right now have a hard time of using good ingredients because they can't understand the demand of the consumers. So they need to make things that have preservatives, or they need to make things that essentially are loaded with things that you might not like, but taste very good, right? But for our business, we're thinking about it as how can we partner with you to become your trusted food source as a default option. And to do that, we really need to look at what ingredients we're using. We have on our team dietitians and executive chefs really putting together recipes that are almost personalized to every office. And in the future, we want to do that for every individual. So the story about ingredients is definitely core to our mission, and it's something that truly differentiates us from other services that you're going to find on food delivery and other things. I can definitely talk about this for a very long time, but I think I'm eating into my time. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Yang.
Booming in your Jeep, or your Honda, or your Beamer, or your Legend, or your Benz. The rave of the town to your foes and your friends. So push it along, trails.